engineer for the city of Troy. Tonight's meeting is about the potential construction of a skate park under the Hoosick Street Bridge. With me tonight is Matt from Grindline, a Seattle-based design build firm who specializes in concrete skate parks. So with that very brief introduction, here's Matt.
All right, Aaron. Yep, as Aaron mentioned, so I'm CEO at Grindline Skateparks. I've been with Grindline for almost 20 years now, overseeing all of our design and construction projects for about 15 of those years. And yeah, Grindline, we're a design build firm specializing in cast in place concrete skate parks. You know, at Grindline, I feel like we've designed and built just about every type of terrain, whether it's huge bowls shaped like the state of Texas, or, you know, brick stamped terrain, or using rocks. Okay, we don't have a microphone. Maybe if everybody scoot in a little bit. Bring it on in. We can put some chairs right here. The background, yeah. All right, thanks for coming in and getting cozy. What's up, man? All right, now that we're all right up here and cozy. So yeah, like I was saying, we've designed and built just about every type of skate terrain you can think of, whether it's, you know, large bowls in the shape of Texas, or incorporating, you know, boulders or other things we find on site during construction into the design. Different types of pool coping, incorporating accent lights into the skate parks. You know, using local context, like on the right there, you see that's in Burlington, Vermont, right? A skate park's right next to the lake, where it's kind of a sail-inspired feature, and then a manual pad in the shape of Vermont. Just some examples of, you know, context. Our philosophy for skate park design is kind of a three-pronged philosophy. And it's community involvement, timeless design, and integration and context. And I'll talk a little bit about each of those briefly. So community involvement, that's what we're doing right now. We're engaging with you guys, the local skate community, and other interested stakeholders. And we want to get your guys' feedback to learn what you guys want to see in your park. And that's going to allow you to empower yourselves and hopefully take some ownership of the skate park when it's constructed, and, you know, be good stewards and call people out when they're doing things they're not supposed to do in the park. And just like, you know, we're gonna come in and design this, and hopefully it's gonna get built soon, and we're gonna leave town, and then it's up to you guys to take care of the park, and, you know, make it a positive addition to the city. And then just exchanging information. Like I said, we're getting all this feedback from you. We're going to take all this information, as well as the online survey that we've been conducting for the past few months, take it back to the Grindline headquarters, and our team will come up with a initial conceptual design to come back and present to you guys for comment. Timeless design. So, you know, couple of points on timeless design. One is flow. You know, you guys are going to tell us you want like a million different things tonight here at this meeting, and we're going to have to take it back and basically make some sense of it, and use those ideas to incorporate it into a cohesive design that works, where all the spatial relationships and everything are, you know, adequate, so that the park works and flows as intended. Progression. So we call it the ladder of progression, and it's basically, instead of having like designated areas, like this is the beginner area, this is the intermediate, and this is the advanced, we try to design everything keeping all skill levels in mind so that you don't have areas of the park or an entire park that you're bored with after, 6 months, 2 years, 10 years. Basically, it's fun to skate for decades to come. And then aesthetics, and that's just, we try to incorporate aesthetics in a number of different ways. We try to use integral colored concrete to kind of soften the look of the park, so it's not just this, gray mass in the middle of town. Other things like accent lighting, different textures, brick stamps, stone stamps, things like that, and just different materials whenever possible. And then integration and context. So I'll talk a little bit about the specific project goals for this, this project, and site analysis and local identity. So the goals for this project is the design will need to take into account the existing bridge piers and integrate into the existing space and surrounding environment. No features will be allowed to be built on those bridge pillars. Total site's about 17,000 square feet, and the goal is to maximize the skatable area on site while allowing for some areas for amenities like seating, shade, stuff like that. Facilities shall be designed to accommodate skateboarders, scooters, and BMX riders of all skills. Design should be integrated with the surrounding environment and feature a mix of street and transition style terrain. So the goal when we design these parks is basically to make it feel like the park either always should have been there or always was there, and isn't just like plopped on the site and no consideration was taken to the surrounding areas or features or anything like that. Are you guys still having trouble hearing me? Anybody? Background. Okay. Yeah. Work without power? Without power? Yeah, I should be able to. It will for a while, at least we'll see. And finally, the design of the project should draw and engage local users to the skate park and challenge both beginners and experienced users. Again, kind of going back to the ladder progression philosophy. So site analysis, so that's us, going and visiting the site, which we did today, just kind of identifying the different opportunities and constraints with the sites. How are we going to drain this thing? How are we going to grade it so it fits into the surrounding areas? And how are we going to utilize the overall footprint to make it flow and work as a park? Just to touch on local identity a little bit, I mean, this is where we want to get feedback from you guys. What do you guys want to see in the park that's going to represent Troy? Sometimes it's, we get requests that are literal, like for instance, the Houston Park, they wanted the giant Texas star in there, and then we have the huge flow bowl with the full pipe actually shaped in as the state of Texas. Testing. All right. Whoa. Can you hear me now? Okay. All right. Okay. Sounds good. So yeah, local identity. So the shots on the left-hand side are things that are a little bit more subtle. The upper photo, you can see the different colored stairs next to the handrail. They're actually fish scales. Was representing part of the Slalom Indian tribe in Washington State. Below that, you have the park in Hana, Maui, where we were representing the different volcanoes, skatable volcanoes within the state of Hawaii. Down there on the lower left, you see a park in Manchester, Vermont, where the river kind of runs through Manchester, and we represented that with the blue concrete through the park. Now I'm just going to talk to you guys a little bit about the actual design process, so you know what happens next and how this whole thing goes down. And I'll go through each of these individually, but start with the site visit and analysis, like I just mentioned, community input, which we're all here doing right now. Next, we do conceptual design and come back and present that to you, finalize it. Cost estimating throughout design, and then getting into construction documents, which are the working drawings or the blueprints that are, the actual drawings that are used to build the skate park. The next bidding and finally construction. So site analysis, I showed you some photos. We also take into account the existing conditions survey that's been completed for the site. It shows us kind of the lay of the land, the site topography, vertical controls, which are the elements of the hardscape, and utilities that run underneath and around the park that we have to either avoid or maybe we can use to tie into for storm drainage. Then community input. So just some of the results from the survey that we've conducted. As far as age ranges on respondents, this is pretty standard for skate park surveys. An overwhelming response on 80% skate park versus 20% amenities. Again, amenities are things like shade structures and seating, drinking fountains or bottle filling stations, stuff like that. And top amenity request was lights. Lights are also probably the most expensive amenity. That's something to consider. Typically, providing active use lighting in a skate park is somewhere in the neighborhood of about $100,000. Whereas a drinking fountain is about, $3,000. Which I could use right now. Results on transitional terrain. Again, these responses are pretty standard. You got your quarter pipe, mini ramp, steel coping, pool bowl, hip, flow bowl. A lot of these kind of upper, higher voted upon items can all be incorporated into a flow bowl. Something to keep in mind. And street features, the top scoring street features, pretty much the usual suspects, ledge, manual pad, flat bar rail, step up. Those are kind of your quintessential street elements to work into the design and, spice it up with some other stuff beyond that. And then just as far as street features versus transitional features, the top split was 60% street, 40% transition, which is a good mix. And then excuse me. All that yelling for the first part of the presentation. So then we take all this feedback back and, like I said, create a preliminary concept, which will be rendered like you guys see here, which is, becomes kind of the final pretty picture that can be used to help educate the community on what a modern day skate park actually looks like. A lot of people don't know. And used for fundraising, grant applications, and then, like I said, just education and awareness as well. Then construction documents. This is just an example of a construction document set. And again, these are the working drawings that the construction crew will use to build the park. And this phase of final design also includes, any permitting required, and then bidding and getting into construction. Got ahead of myself there. So skate park construction, this is just a few snapshots of a few different phases of the construction. The first upper left, we have mass excavation and formwork, drainage to the right of that, and to the right of that, steel coping placement, formwork and rebar, and then obviously concrete and shotcrete placement and finishing. Then it's time to party, grand opening, and this is kind of the celebration of passing the park on to the community. Now I'm just going to show you guys a few examples of parks that we've designed and built, just to kind of get the ideas flowing. I know a lot of you guys completed the survey already, but just this might help kind of spark some ideas on, you're like, oh, hey, I want that right there. So just go through a few of these. This is the North Houston Skate Park. So this is one of the biggest parks in the world. It's about 70,000 square feet. Got a little bit of everything. Okay, I think we probably move on, and we can come back to this whole video we did, but these guys too much. This is Judkin Skate Park in Seattle. It's about 8,000 square feet of skatable concrete with a bioretention rain garden in the center. I just want to include this one because I think it's a good example of like a subtle representation of local context. This park's located right along the I-90 corridor, which in Washington State, coming through the Cascades, down into Seattle, it's called the Mountains to Sound Byway. So this kind of snake running flow bowl representing the Puget Sound. As you can see over here, up the left, you kind of have these transitional features. The centerpiece representing Mount Rainier, and then kind of in the back corner, you have more like urbanized street elements, which represented the Highway 99 viaduct, which was recently torn down, actually. So you don't have to be super literal and cheesy with your representation, but that's welcome too. But this is just a subtle example. Star Idaho. This is just, I like this one because it's a good mix of transitional and street features. There's not necessarily enclosed standalone bowl or anything like that. But of course, set aside or whatever. It's kind of everything's stuck together, and again with the context, you see the integral concrete colored stars throughout the park. This is Vista Skate Parks system, which is actually two parks that were designed and constructed at the same time, about a block away from each other. And in this case, they wanted one park to be all transitional features, like you see on the lower left and on the lower right, all kind of more street type features. So you get the best of both worlds, and you just kind of have to skate down this alley between the two to get from one to the other. College Station, I just want to bring this one up just because it's a kind of different animal. It's just really this, if you look right, it's this really long skate path, these street features. So you got this kind of highway back to Bowl Zone where there's two different bowls back there if you look in the upper right hand corner. Ithaca, New York, just threw this one in here, you know, semi-local. We've also done, have been and are working on several projects in the upstate New York area, Buffalo, Ellicottville, Springville, Auburn, and Jamestown. So we like it here. All right, so what are we gonna do here? So again, we want to make sure you guys fill out these comment forms. And just hit me up with them when you're done at the end of the meeting. And then we've also, you know, hopefully most of you participated in the online survey, which is now closed. I think we also kind of like to go around the room, and if you guys want to just like shout out like one top thing that you want to see in the park, whether it's specific features, amenities, anything like that, crazy ideas, local representation. Can I get anybody with good penmanship and that's not left-handed to volunteer to take notes, possibly? You want to take notes? I don't think the mic's going to reach far enough for me. All right. So let's start here, and then we'll start going down the line.
What's going to be the square footage of the total build?
Square footage of the total build. Well, the usable footprint, I think, is around 17,000 square feet. I'd probably figure maybe using 2 to 3 of that for like amenities and viewing areas. So
just this zone right here, it's not like at the bottom of the bridge at all?
So it's just a zone within the concrete apron. So, I mean, if we want to use like where the zones are and stuff like that as part of it, we can. We just have to figure out how we're going to make the connection back down to the sidewalk.
Is there some availability to green, what's like green space in there?
Yeah, I think the intention from what I got back to the city was to possibly have a small area and then some sort of viewing area up there, but we don't have to leave that entire grassy area as is up there. How about you? Nothing? Okay. This guy's got us up.
I don't know if it's at all possible to take into consideration with economic redirection.
Taking into consideration. Okay.
Here we only have like what, 4 months, 5 months of the season. And doing something like that, you'll buy 2 weeks, 3 weeks at full.
Right. Okay. I like take wind direction. He's got it already. How about you?
It's an architect.
All right.
You need help?
Yeah. Like established lanes, kind of almost. Yeah, for sure. So we're kind of like a directional flow, so it's not all multiple runs can go on at once, right? Yeah. As far as we know, we can't build anything up onto those spheres. Yeah.
But you could build in front, I mean, you could build in front of them or?
Yeah, I think we'll be able to talk to them, just not onto them. And there, we will have to make consideration for like a service truck to be able to come onto the site just in case there's any bridge maintenance. So that's going to be a factor too. You don't necessarily need to build up for transitional features in this park. We've got quite a bit of fall for drainage. So going into the ground is probably a pretty solid option as well.
Down, like 30 streets.
Aaron, do you know where the water table is approximately? Is that an issue here? Okay.
Structures in that area.
Yeah.
There's all the water table and
Right.
and around the bridge piers themselves, down central.
Okay. Nothing. This guy? How about over in the corner holding up the wall? No? Okay, you guys are good? All right, let's start back. Anything? Okay, how about row number 2 right here? Go ahead.
So where the skate park is located is kind of an important piece of the life because we're 2 neighborhoods converge.
Okay.
And that was the purpose of the mural here, to sort of represent North Troy and South Troy.
Okay.
They're 2 very different neighborhoods, North Troy and South Troy. So it would be cool to have some sort of feature that sort of represents that communication.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's a very important piece of information. And I mean, it's fairly obvious as you make that drive through. Yeah, I came in south going north and just like stopping at the site and then continuing on. It's kind of see it.
Well, and the other thing I'll just add to that, it'll make the locals appreciate the park.
Totally.
You know what I mean? See that they've been sort of respected.
Sure. I like it.
That's it.
Okay. How about you? Nothing? Enclosed bowl. Okay, so you mean like a smaller kind of pool style? Okay. Nothing for you? How about you? Keep the stair set that's there. Okay. That's a possibility. What's that? It's full, it is full of ledges. That was kind of something we were checking out, or I was checking out today, is like, can we incorporate all the perimeter wall into the design, or is it like not worth trying to make it force it? So that's something we'll take into consideration.
Idea. I really personally like to see something like swirly and slalomy coming into some type of flow.
Okay. Okay, so some kind of like snake flowy track into flowable.
Feel it's like a
Okay. Let's go with flowy skate track. I'll remember what that is.
I would just add to that. I mean, there's something that can set this apart from all skate park is like good back and forth flow.
Okay.
Like the ability for people with different skill levels to be able to continue momentum.
Okay.
The local park that we have, like that's kind of the downside of it.
Put a check next to the lanes direction of flow. Yeah. How about this guy back here? You good? Hudson River. Okay, represent the Hudson River. Right. Atlantic Beach? Yes, we did. A long, long time ago. Yeah. That's a good one. Classic. I think that was like 05.
Represent those, as a way to represent the area, work that space like to represent the box.
Lots. Okay.
With anything that has a drop.
Right.
And like you were saying before, you don't have to be like right on the nose, literal with your local installation.
Yeah.
That is, you know, the purpose.
Totally. Like that. This guy,
I noticed a lot of natural transition. How far can you go towards the column?
we can, we're just gonna have to find a way to like adjust what to grade, whether it's a wall or, you know, I mean, I think we can kind of utilize the existing grades to some extent, but we're gonna have to like draw a line at some point. Otherwise, I mean, there's 10 feet of fall throughout that site. So it's like, I said, without making it like super lopsided and like everybody just funnels down to this one corner kind of thing.
Right up top here, you see it.
Yeah.
You can just stop and let it up. You know, natural transition. Not slip too much, but that'll start to flow.
Yeah.
Down towards the water. Small space, you can kind of make it like transition around the sides of small legend things. You know, not a whole lot of room to operate. So you don't want people going across each other this way.
Yeah.
So you probably don't want transition on these sides as much. Not a one direction front. Well, say one space, you want transition, maybe there's whole or, but this direction is not, you might have two separate lanes at once.
Right.
Something to mind, it's probably not a lot of flow. All in this direction, so two tracks, of course.
Yep.
That's the area right there.
Yeah. Something around that size.
Back to the corner, there's kind of cut out. Let's take it.
Yeah.
Feel pretty deep here. You know.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you know, it's like the more you look at it, the more kind of utilizing the existing ledges, the existing walls as ledges might kind of, it's going to pin in the footprint pretty quick. So yeah, they're not in great shape. How about you? Yeah. You good?
I'm here for sport.
The entire space will be put in. That's not something that we have discussed yet. So I'm not sure at this point whether it will be required. Anytime we can avoid a fence, we always want to. There's actually some grants that require. Oh.
Yeah. It's provided as much fencing as required to make sure decks and things that apply in the street, right? So we want to, if the terrain allows us to not have a fence, we might not have it, but if we need it in order to protect riders and cars.
Good question. Let me finish this row and then I'll come back. Yeah. A big roll in into the street course. Yeah. For sure. Yeah, definitely. I'll put that one down. Like a roll-in area into the street area. Yes, right. How about you?
Just like, and then after whatever you guys come up with, the side. You guys, the closest full pipe here is Louisville.
Okay. Yeah.
The opposite, like eastern coastal.
Right.
But and also like we have a lot of shitty weather a lot of the year, and full pipe stays pretty dry. Like outside of the footprint of the bridge, like
Yeah.
just super protected stuff. We go on more of the year. But the better is like you know, you get a
just one stuff. Big stuff.
Okay. Big stuff. Okay, we got full pipe. Yeah, put stuff. Full pipe on there too.
I could have like some sort of thing for like a pool or home because it's very, it's really
Nothing, yeah.
nothing really. I think they were.
Sounds good.
Just like that. I don't necessarily enjoy pool coping,